the same way. Take Tylenol the day before.
Close meeting order. Welcome everyone. We'll do a quick roll call. Go down the list. Jeff,
Here.
Daryl,
Here.
Mike, Lay, Jonathan,
Here.
Dave,
Here.
Lynn,
Here.
Bob,
Here.
Lynn.
Here.
Max, Mike, Lay, Mike. All right, we're gonna move to unfinished business. I request approval for minutes from January 21.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman. Bob Ritchie.
Got a motion on the floor,
Second, Dave Phillips.
Second, Jim. Sale.
properly seconded. All in favor, going down the list. Jeff,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
Mike, Jonathan,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Lynn,
Yes.
Bob,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
All right, moving to new business. Approval for amendment of the capital project ordinance for heat and energy project to transform meeting amount of $709,000.
A couple of years ago, the board approved us, I think it's about $2 million to set up in the capital project fund to defend, to sue the lawsuit against the heat and energy for CH2M Hill. We have been spending that money out of that capital project ordinance, and our auditors said since we had decommissioned the project, they'd rather us spend that money out of the operating fund. So I'm just asking for the remaining money remaining in that budget to be transferred back to the operating fund so we can continue to pay the bills that come in as we pursue the lawsuit. And have an amendment for the capital project ordinance, transferring it back to the operating fund, and then an amendment to operating fund, recognizing those funds coming in. Question?
I'll do the first one, I guess, if we're doing them separate. So move approval on amendment of the capital project ordinance.
Got a motion on the floor,
Second.
properly seconded. All in favor, say aye. Going down the list. Jeff,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
picking on Mike again. Jonathan,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna entertain a motion on the second half. Approval for annual budget ordinance of the transfer to the operating.
So moved, Jonathan.
Got a motion on the floor? Properly second, all in favor, say aye. Jeff,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
Jonathan,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we move to expansion projects and flow update, Chad.
All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, want to provide a quick update here on our expansion project that we have going at Rocky River Wastewater Treatment Plant, along with a little info on the flows and growth and system development fees and everything that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. Earlier today, we sent out an email with the presentation that I'm making to everyone. I hope anyone that's not able to see this virtually received that email, and will be able to click through those slides as we go forward. Going to move through a good bit of information here. There will be time at the end for questions, but obviously when we get into these graphs and we get into some of this information, just stop me at any time and ask your questions. No need to wait till the end. So start kind of here to give a quick update on where we're at. About this time last year, I think in January of last year, actually, WSACC began the preliminary design for the expansion of the Rocky River Wastewater Treatment Plant from 26.5 million gallons a day to 34 million gallons a day. This was all started due to growth we were seeing within our system as a whole, along with anticipated additional flow from Charlotte Water, and then the fact of the industrial potential growth that we have from the grounds of Concord and other industrial sites throughout the county. Currently, this project is on schedule for the preliminary design to be completed next month. And I would anticipate a very detailed discussion of that and presentation by our engineer at next month's meeting of where that's at, what we've learned, and what that looks like going forward. So moving on.
There you go.
Sorry. All right, so the next,
I apologize.
got a little technical difficulty here. So- All right, so now you should have a graph here we're looking at. This graph here is showing our actual wastewater treatment plant flow at Rocky River on a yearly average million gallons per day rate, going all the way back to 2007 to 2020. I was thinking back through it. I don't know why I started at 2007. The only thing I could come to is that's when I started at WSACC. So that's a year that's always meant something to me. So as you can see, when we're looking at this graph, we had about 6 years there of really flat growth. Anybody remembers this time period, but we're on the backside of what, a 10-year, 12-year, whatever it was, drought that we had all experienced and try to forget. And then also we were coming after the recession there of 2008. So very slow growth in the county during that time period. We can see 2013, 2014, that's kind of a combination of a few things starting to build and grow within the county, and then it's starting to see a little bit of rainfall. What I want you to kind of notice here is the fact that from 2007 to 2017, a 10-year window, we went up a little over 2 million gallons of average daily flow at the wastewater plant in 10 years. In the 4 years since then, or 3 years since then, we've gone up almost 5 million gallons a day of wastewater in just 3 years. Okay, so we're going to move through a few graphs here of kind of what's going on there. Well, what are we seeing? So we can go to the next one, Tom. Yep. The next is the same red line. So we got the same wastewater flow graph here, but the blue bars are rainfall, total inches of rainfall for the year. If you look on the right side of the graph is, if you see about number 45 there, that's about average rainfall, a little under 45. It's about average rainfall. So you can see first part of the graph, we had a few above average, we had a few well below average, but we also had a very low groundwater table coming off the drought that we had experienced those first 5-6 years. Then as I mentioned earlier, when we start getting to 2013, 14, 15, started seeing a little more rainfall and started to see some growth. But if you look at the last 4 years, we have 4 consecutive years of well above average rainfall. One thing to keep in mind, rainfall, that the impact from I&I and rainfall on your system is not really a linear relationship. So if you have 10 inches of excess rainfall, you're going to see that impact your system over the course of a year. If you have 20 inches of excess rainfall, you may have 4 times the impact from that, just because of the infiltration component of it, the groundwater component of it. So we obviously know the last 4 years have had a significant impact on our total flows on a daily basis at the wastewater treatment plant. And that's been a big part of the increase we've seen over the last 4 years. Next one, we've got the same red line that we're dealing with here, flows here, but we're looking at system development fees. So this is when we collect the money when the building permit is pulled. I've converted this into gallons per day. So this is these are rates of 200, 300, 500, 600,000 gallons per day on a yearly collected basis. We can see 2007 we're coming right before the recession. So we had growth going on there. Then we had an extended period there of, well, I think most everybody consider below average growth that you can see starting in 2006. We've seen fairly consistent growth taking place in the county, and that's represented in the system development fees. So that obviously has had an impact over the last few years on this growth of flow within the plant. The last graph I've got for you to look at is looking at flow acceptance. All right, so this is when a developer comes to Concord, Kannapolis, Harrisburg, Mount Pleasant, says we want to build a project, commercial, residential, industrial, really doesn't matter. That will end up coming to WSACC for final flow acceptance, saying we have capacity, we can support this project. Once again, you look those first 6 years or so, very, very low flow accepted. No growth going on coming after the recession. We can start seeing, we've started approaching 1 million gallons a day in 2015 and have been pretty consistent there until this last year where we accepted almost 3 million gallons of new flow in calendar year 2020. Should be noted about 1.1 million of that is the Back Creek pump station coming out of Charlotte Water that will come online in 2022 that we're building the Back Creek project for. So that's kind of a one-off. That's not something we would see on a normal year. But even taking it off, we were well over 2 million gallons. I mean, well, 1.5 million, 1.6 million gallons of flow accepted, which is a record year by a long shot for us here at WSACC. So kind of some important notes to consider when we're talking about all this. One, the expansion of the Rocky River plant is a major project, any way you look at it. And will take approximately 6 years to finish the design and to construct the project. So it's not something that's going to happen quickly. Secondly, rainfall and the accompanying I&I have had a major impact on the flows at Rocky River, particularly since 2008, but the volume of the impact is tough to quantify. Anybody that's been around a wastewater system knows you see those impacts, but to say exactly how much that is impacted, and a good way to think of that is it resulted in 1 million gallons a day of excess flow at the wastewater plant, 500,000 gallons a day? We really don't know, but we do know it is significant in that order of magnitude. Also, it's reasonable to expect that our rainfall pattern may return to a more normal level in the next few years, but we don't know that, and we must plan that it doesn't. We just have to plan that we're going to continue to stay wet and have these impacts on our system. All of the data that we're currently seeing and summarizing the graphs we just looked at has led us to recommending the acceleration of the expansion of Rocky River to the construction beginning in 2023. So the CIP that was approved last year had construction beginning in 2025. The CIP that will be presented tonight has that being moved up to 2023 to support growth. Few action items moving forward out of this. One, we're going to work with all of our jurisdictions here in Cabarrus County, and this is actually underway right now, to complete a study and submit to the state a request for an amendment to the quantity of wastewater allocated per bedroom from the flow acceptance standpoint. Some of you may be aware of this process, some not, but when we accept a development now, we're accepting on a per bedroom rate of 120 gallons per bedroom per day for a house. So a 3-bedroom home, we're accepting 360 gallons of flow for that 3-bedroom home. We know nowadays with low flow showers, low flow sinks, low flow everything, the actual volume that you see from that house is more like 200 gallons per day. So what's this results in us having on paper capacity tied up at the wastewater plant that's not ever going to really come to the wastewater treatment plant. And it eats up the capacity you have available to allocate to future projects. Next, we're going to gather updates on project status that have been approved by WSACC with Cabarrus County and Charlotte Water. This is in progress with the staffs and all the different jurisdictions. This will provide us an update on how quickly projects are coming online and allow us to audit and potentially go ahead and mark off some projects that are fully built out instead of the timing that we normally have, assuming it's going to be a 5-year process for those projects to come online. So as the annual estimate that we did in the end of 2020, we did it in January 2021. WSACC has an estimated total flow accepted, but not yet tributary to the plant of 3.6 million gallons. So this is a big number. This is why we're wanting to dig in detail and see where we're at on this number. Also, that 3.6 million is based off of the 120 gallons per bedroom. Once this study is done and we get approval from the state, then that 3.6 million number will come down significantly. into the 2.6, 2.7 range, which will help us out on paper, obviously. The last is we need to move to full design of the Rocky River expansion this year. That is also represented on the CIP that we will be presenting, and will be part of our presentation discussion we have with our engineer next week. That's a lot of information. That was a lot of talking on my behalf. So please, any questions you have, clarifications you want, please let me know.
Chad, this is Bob Ritchie. I do have a question about this daily allocated flow for new constructions, new taps. We've kind of had this conversation before, and it seems to me I remember it being like $250 per household or something like that. But regardless of that, would this be a special exception for the state rule for Cabarrus County, or is this an effort to actually change that rule and make it more realistic?
This would be a standard process with the state of going through and doing a study and submitting this. That's been done. Charlotte Water did it, I don't know, 10 plus years ago. City of Raleigh's done it many years ago. It will not be a change to the standard rule. It will be individual for Cabarrus County for WSACC. It's a standard process that's done in many jurisdictions. We're not the only ones dealing with this right now, with growth and with the impacts of it, impacts of rainfall. This is normal. This is standard. We're kind of following Union County's lead. They did it 2 years ago. So we're kind of following the path they took through with the state. And this should be a 4 to 6 month process. Anytime you're dealing with the state, it's out of your control a little bit, but it is not a long-term study and process. And it's one that takes place regularly.
So the numbers in this presentation are based on the state rule right now. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's actually.
So do you have an estimate?
Go ahead.
Do you have an estimate of how much flow capacity, if we get that number lowered, would afford us?
Turn into Thomas Hahn. He's my numbers guy on this.
Right, and there are two efforts going in parallel. So the combination of those could be, we could get that number down from 3.6 to maybe 2.7, 2.5, 2.73. So
I don't know if you were able to hear that, but it could have around 1 million gallons of impact. So get us down to 2.6 around that number. So it's definitely a worthwhile effort. And then it will pay dividends into the future, because 1 million gallons of flow, when it comes to flow allocation with a lower number, will go further. It will support more bedrooms. It will support more homes. It'll pay dividends now looking back, but it'll pay even bigger dividends looking forward over the next 5-6 years while we're building this capacity.
Right. And really the reason for the question was really about scheduling. I mean, we're anticipating a good amount of increase with Charlotte Water and all that kind of stuff. So I think what it does for us is kind of, if we can get it approved, give us a little bit of breathing room on being under what I consider a fairly hard deadline.
You're completely right. And also, just from an engineering standpoint, it gives us a more accurate number that we're not having to keep up with a number that we know is not right. We get a number we have more confidence in when we're looking out and projecting flows into the future. Anyone else with questions?
Yeah, that's kind of all I got. The only other thing would be with I know we battle that all the time, and we're doing some upgrades and repairs on some transmission lines that I think may help that a little bit, but you don't see that as being what we've got on the books right now as far as being a major impact as far as lowering that number, do you?
Not as a whole. What we're seeing right now is just the sheer amount of rainfall we've had for the duration we've had and the groundwater levels we're seeing now. What it really does, if you can think about, some of our lines are concrete pipe that's 20 foot in the ground. You've got a join every 10 feet, every 20 feet. And with this high groundwater, you've got a joint that maybe is dripping, and normally it drips every 10 seconds, and now it's dripping every 4 seconds. It's still a drip. It's still something that's very expensive to go fix what little bits you're getting there. But by dripping every 4 seconds instead of every 10 seconds, it's over 2 times as much water entering the system. And when you take into account thousands of miles throughout the entire county and manholes, and it's just increasing that head pressure a little bit on all those joints and just making that water come in just a little bit more. So we're going to continue to track it down, to chase it. Jeff and myself talked the other day. They've got work they're doing. Kannapolis has been doing work. I mean, everybody's out chasing it. And unfortunately, it's kind of that monster that you can spend money on and kind of just to hold your ground. You may not make a big impact, but you keep it from getting worse, and you protect your system the best you can. So it's definitely an initiative we need to push and to continue chasing, and the projects we're doing right now will help for sure, but it's hard to quantify.
Thanks, Chad.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Keep moving. Capital improvement program.
We have sent out the draft CIP,
Keep going.
and we're seeking your input and your questions on it. We will come back in March with our final proposed CIP, but we have made some substantial changes, which I've outlined in my memo. I won't go over each one of them, but again, the most significant one is expanding the plant 2 years early. We have moved the Muddy Creek expansion design into the 6-year CIP. It's still not to the point where we're in a rush, about 50% of capacity right now, but it is time to get it designed. So we have color coded the projects on the list. Ones in purple are Charlotte Water is participating in. The Back Creek and the design are under contract with Charlotte Water. They have let us know they want $3 million out of expansion. That is not currently under contract with them, so we will have to do an amendment to our master agreement and get that all the details nailed down on that participation. We are proposing using a combination of system development fees, our own resources, and some bond funds to fund this project, the different projects. We're working right now with Data Corp to update our financial projections. Hopefully we'll have an updated one at the March meeting for you. And we will continue after that, trying to find the best way to finance these projects with the least impact to the jurisdictions that's possible, using a combination of revenue sources that we have. But we'll answer any questions you may have right now on the projects, and you can call us or email us later during the week or now and next meeting to let us know what concerns you may have.
Hey, Michael, this is Bob Ritchie again. I had a quick question on the first 2 items. Have we already appropriated or an ordinance for both of those?
Yes, sir. Those are coming out of our cash reserves.
Any other questions? Homework to do?
Yeah, real quick, Mike, we actually had a quick conference call this morning on reviewing the potential return of federal earmarks. Is that something that WSACC would be eligible to go after the way it's set up?
I'm not sure because we haven't received any information on receiving. Are you talking about CARES money?
No, direct, funding earmarks. Our lobbyists in DC, it appears that, those earmarks in the budget process that went away for specific projects appear to be coming back. And I know we've been tasked to get a list of projects together locally to potentially be considered for earmark funding. I just was curious, with the project that's so needed, that is a multi-jurisdictional project, I would think that if eligible, that potentially would be a very interesting project to that process, since it would impact several municipalities.
WSACC has never hired a lobbyist to work for us to try to acquire any kind of grants or special circumstances, loans. We could explore that if the board's interested in going that route. Concord want to share some of their grants? I will mention also that we do have a concern with grounds at Concord. There are a number of industries looking at this site, ranging from 500,000 gallons a day to 2 million gallons a day. If we ended up landing a couple of these at one time, it would really put us in a bind, and we would really need to accelerate even faster than we're talking about. But, we think we're ahead of the curve, but we're not way ahead of the curve, unless the rain stops and it comes dry again. But given current circumstances, we're moving where we need to be moving pretty quick. Any other questions?
All right, we'll move to public comment. We'll go online. All right, here now, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for GS 143-318-11A1 and A3.
Move for approval. Lynn.
A motion on the floor,
Second.
Second, Bob Ritchie.
properly seconded, all in favor, going down the list. Jeff,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Jonathan,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Bob,
Bye.
Jim.
Aye.
All right, so we're gonna, before we jump into approving the All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion on the floor.
Second, Lynn.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Let's have a great night.